A very good morning to you and welcome to Ask X Factor Live. Great to have your company here this morning. Please come in and take a virtual seat. Hope you've got a lovely tea or coffee with you this morning. I wonder where you're joining us from. We're here in sunny, beautiful Melbourne. It's the start of the silly season here, Christmas in a couple of weeks' time. Great that you can join us in your, no doubt, very busy schedule, as December's a very busy month for most people. So welcome to Ask X Factor Live. Welcome to those who are joining us now. Please, excited to have you here. Please take a seat. This has been an 18-week pilot and today is week 18. Can you believe we're actually finishing up our pilot today and going out on a high with such an extraordinary woman, capability builder, Leanne Hart is here today to share her knowledge, her wisdom and her insights with you all around B Corp, becoming a B Corp, and also around people and culture and some of the common challenges that we experience in our organisations or businesses. And Leanne's got some great tips for you to take away today. So welcome if this is your first time to Ask X Factor and to the X Factor Collective. And welcome back if you've been with us over the last 18 weeks. Delighted to have you here again. And welcome to you in the future if you are watching this back on our new YouTube channel, The Exchange. Great to have your company here. So I am your host this morning. My name is Julia Keedy. I'm also the founder and chief cheerleader of the X Factor Collective. And if you haven't heard of the X Factor Collective, that is fair enough, because we only launched about 4.5 months ago here in Australia. And we are Australia's first social impact collective, a community for all social change makers, whether you're working in a charity or a social enterprise or a B Corp or in a philanthropic foundation. Doesn't matter where you work as a social change maker, we decided to build a community and a collective for you to be able to find really great people, find the support and advice that you need when you need it. And this is very much designed, I guess, from what I call my scenic tour of the social impact sector over the last 10 years, a need that I could see in terms of bringing together really great consultants, coaches and mentors into a collective community, and also making it easier for you to have a destination to go to find the people that you need. Whether you need them for an hour, a week or a month, or whether you want to come in and connect in to programs such as this and also programs such as our beautiful YouTube library, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about later on. So let's get ready and jump into this today. Before I introduce Leanne, I'm just going to let you know that we've got a bunch of great questions here today that Leanne has prepared for. And we're also here to answer any of your questions, hence the name Ask X Factor. So if you've got questions, please feel free to think about them over the next half an hour or so, or if you've already got them, please feel free to drop them here in the Q&A box or the chat box. We are using Zoom's webinar platform. There's another little plug for Zoom, and it's really simple. You'll see down the bottom that you've got a chat box and a Q&A box, and you can just pop your question in there. You can ask it anonymously if you like, and just put a note there that you'd like your name not to be mentioned while we're reading out your question. We are recording this whole session and it will be available on our YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks, and we'll let you know when it's available. We do cut up all of the questions into beautiful little bite-sized videos, so you can go back at any time and watch that video or share it with your colleagues, your friends, your board, whoever it is that you might want to be sharing that knowledge with. So if the link drops out at your end, do not fear. You can see there in the chat box that there's a couple of phone numbers and a code ID to use to phone back in. And I'm just going to pop that on your screen as well. So you can just take a screenshot of that if you like. You can see that there, phone numbers and a code just to dial back in and keep listening to the show. So that's all of the introductions out of the way, and now let's get absolutely into it. I'm delighted to introduce you all today to Leanne Hart, who's a people and culture specialist and also a foundation member of the X Factor Collective. Leanne describes herself as a capability builder, which I really, really love that the way that she describes herself. And she's a global explorer with more than 16 years experience in HR, in human resources. Leanne founded Hart to Hart Consulting earlier this year to support social purpose businesses to build their people and culture with heart and purpose. Leanne's been an active member of the B Corp community for almost 2 years, supporting for-profit businesses and social enterprises as they work towards certification. Leanne is a firm believer in the power of business as a force for good. And this is one of the areas that she provides expertise as part of the X Factor Collective. So it's great to have you here today. Hi, Leanne.
Hi, thanks for having me along, Julia.
Yay. Before we jump into these questions, can you share a bit about your background and maybe tell us a bit about Hart to Hart Consulting?
Sure. As you said, I am a global explorer and I've worked in a number of different multinational organisations and love being surrounded by people from different cultures, different backgrounds within Australia and all around the world. And I've had that privilege over the years of being exposed to some incredible people and thinking. And it was about May last year, or maybe even the year before, I was at a conference in Alice Springs with a lot of the B Corp community. And it was like a lot of sparkles went off and I found myself surrounded by so many incredible organisations doing great things with great vision for change in the world. And I knew that I needed to be part of that and that I needed to be using the skills that I had to work more closely with organisations that were having impact on the ground. And so began the journey.
Fantastic. Excellent. And how's your year been? Have you had a great year?
Fantastic year. The learning that I've had personally from the people that I've had the privilege of working with and supporting, both clients and conferences and the social purpose community in a whole, is it's a pretty special place to be, particularly in Melbourne.
It sure is, indeed. And I was fortunate enough to meet Leanne at the start of the year. And as soon as I met her, I just knew that she just embodies the spirit of the people and the members of the X Factor Collective. Incredibly smart woman with loads and loads of experience, but as you can see, very, aligned with great values and purpose and heart here in the work that she's to do in this lifetime. So great to have you here today, Leanne. So we've got a bunch of topics we're going to jump into now. We're going to look at people challenges in social enterprises. We're going to look at cultures that are challenging you and what you could do, some great tips. We're going to look at some cost-effective team engagement ideas as well. So that's a very common question that Leanne gets. We're going to look at some of the steps for B Corp certification, and we're going to look at some of the most common changes that a business needs to make to be able to achieve B Corp certification, and much more, and hopefully your questions as well. So let's kick it off, shall we, Leanne? Let's jump into the first question here. So the first question is about challenging work environments, which can be very, very distracting when we just want to focus on the important work that we're doing for the community. How would an organisation or a business leader shift the culture in the right direction when faced with a challenging culture?
There's a great question, and one that I do get asked quite a lot. I guess one of the privileges I've had over the years of being in people and culture or HR is that even at social events, everybody is more than happy to confide in me about a struggle or a challenge that they've had with their work, with a boss, or with the culture in an organisation. And sadly, there's a lot of horror stories out there. Which certainly is something that I'm keen to change, and to work with organisations to make sure that those horror stories start to disappear, and that the culture and the environment that people are able to work in and create impact in is a happy, healthy, productive one. So it is a big challenge for any leader of an organisation, big or small, to be able to do that. And often there's other pressures that face them, pressures from the board, somebody asking you to fix the culture, which I always find quite amazing that it's as easy as just fixing it like that. So there's the one question that I always start with is, if you're a leader of the business, what would you like to see hear, feel, or do? What does your culture need to be to you? Is it currently supporting the things that your organisation is trying to do? Does it support the values and the way that you operate and the impact that you're trying to have? And if it's not, that's the time that you start working on fixing it. So back to your question, how would you shift it in the right direction if it's a challenging culture? There's a number of things that I've seen work really well and that I would suggest. And that is, before you try and fix anything, firstly seek to understand it. You can't fix what you don't know or you don't understand. So firstly, understand why and how it's not delivering or not aligning with your values. Get some feedback from your team, and that can either be through a formal engagement survey. It could just be as simple as asking them. Ask your team what's working and what's not. Culture is not just one thing. Culture is rarely one thing that shifts it in the wrong direction. Culture is the sum of all of the parts. And if all of those parts of a person's experience in the business are not strong, then the culture can go the wrong direction. So it's a bit of an opportunity to do some diagnostic on the sum of all of those parts. And as I said, feedback is an awesome way of understanding where it's going well or where it might be breaking down. But once you've got that feedback, be prepared to do something with it. There's nothing worse than being asked for your opinion or asking for your feedback by an employer and then nothing changes, nothing happens. If people are giving you the time and the respect to share that with you, it's your opportunity as a leader to take that and work with it and be transparent about what's going wrong and what you would like to do to make that change. Your customers and suppliers can sometimes be a really good group to do a litmus test for. If your team are not engaged, your customers are often the first ones to notice, or your suppliers. So if you're getting verbatim feedback from them that things are not going well, or you're seeing changes in your customer service levels, that could also be an indicator that there needs to be a cultural shift there. One of the things I love to do with clients is something called an organisational health check. And that's where we do a holistic review of everything that's going on in the business or in the people and culture space. And that could include, let's have a look at your onboarding. When somebody joins your organisation, that's your opportunity to get them engaged and motivated and really on board with your vision. Are you doing your onboarding well? Are you giving them something to aspire to at that point? How you reward and recognise your employees. Is it aligning with something that appeals to them? Does it motivate them? Are they getting the development and coaching along the way that they need? It's all of those things that help make a great culture. But back to my first point, if you don't understand, it's hard to know what to work on and what to focus on. So that would be my key tip, is understand what it is, then work on an action plan and get your employees involved in that. Don't try and do it alone. As a leader, you don't have to fix the culture yourself. That's your opportunity to get people on board, get them involved in coming up with solutions and action plans so that collectively you can shift it so that it supports your business in the right way. And think of it as a ongoing pulse check, not a full medical every time.
I like that. I like what you said. A couple of things there around also, like you mentioned about being really transparent. There's some really key tips there for people to think about, that they don't have to just hold it as a leader as well, that they can actually really share it and be open about it with everyone in the team. So yeah, there's plenty of nuggets in that answer there for you. So that's great. Thanks, Leanne. Let's move on to the second question. You're working a lot inside a number of social enterprises at the moment, and you're seeing a lot of different types of challenges from a people, culture and HR perspective. Can you tell us what are some of the most common challenges that you see and how could they be avoided?
Number one is hiring the right people. And that's not limited just to social enterprises. That's a problem across all organisations, is making sure that you've got the right person. But for a social enterprise, particularly in their early stages where time and resources and money might be a little bit on the lean side, hiring the right people at the right time is really crucial. I always recommend hiring for attitude, But be really clear before you go and look at bringing anybody in is what are the skills that you need, what will complement your skills as a leader of that business, or complement the skills of the rest of the people in the team. Social enterprises and not-for-profits often attract people that are really purpose-driven, have got strong values, have got a huge amount of passion for what they do. But if you have a whole team of passionate people and you're missing the skills that you need to take that forward or move it in a different direction, then that can be a challenge down the track. So that's one bit of learning that I've seen from a number of early stage social enterprises is the crucial part of getting that hiring decision right can make or break it. Another one is understanding your legal obligations. And again, crosses over different sorts of organisations at different stages, but knowing what's required of you as an employer, both from making sure that you've got policies in place, that you've got employees on the right contractual arrangements, that you've got procedures in place to support them along the way, to support the employees, but to also support you. And having them implemented in a way that aligns with the type of culture and the type of organisation that you are and that you want to be. The legal part can be a bit of a trick when you're first starting out. Social enterprises are so busy doing the amazing work that they're doing and contributing to the community that often the legal stuff just falls into we'll get to that later stage, but it's stuff that can trip you up early too. So I'd suggest to get an understanding of that, get onto it early. There's plenty of amazing resources that we can share with you, free online resources that you can tap into as well. But don't leave it in the let's do it later pile. The other one that I wanted to talk to was providing clarity for your team. So as part of a social enterprise, again, the temptation is sometimes to rely on that we're all driven towards the same purpose and the same goal. But keep in mind that people do need that clarity. They need the vision and the understanding of where this is going and the role that they play in that. And even if it's a team of 5, right through to if it's a team of 500, people do like to know the part that they're playing in the success. And particularly if it's an impact-driven business, how are you having an impact? So provide that clarity early and provide it consistently. And if things change, recommunicate it and give different clarity, but make sure that your team are on the same page that you are. That'd be my top bits of tips.
Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you for those three gems there. Let's move across into the next question. And this is where we're going to start jumping into your knowledge about the B Corp certification process. Mm-hmm. Can we start with you sharing an overview of what a B Corp is and what are the benefits of becoming a B Corp?
B Corps are beautiful organisations. So a certified B Corp is a business that's using their business in a way that is balancing their profit and their purpose. And a certified B Corp is required to be able to show that they're demonstrating impact, the impact on the environment, the impact on suppliers and the community, and that they, the way their decisions are being made are keeping all of that in mind at the same time. It's not just about making profit, it's looking at how we're making profit, but how is our profit being used to the benefit of the community? How is our profit helping us have better corporate social responsibility? How is our profit allowing us to contribute more to volunteering or to provide opportunities to workers or to community members or to some social good that we wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity to provide? It's a beautiful movement. It's a community and a global movement of businesses that are using their business as a force for good. And I think it's the way of the future. There's over 2,500 certified B corporations globally now. I think Australia's getting close to 250. So it's certainly a growing movement here within Australia. And there's a not-for-profit body called B Lab. And B Lab in Australia and New Zealand supports and certifies companies with that B Corp status. And some of the other questions I'll take you into what it means to go through that certification process and the steps that it takes. But know that if you're going down that path, you want your business to be a force for good, and you want to leave some legacy and set your organisation up so that if it's taken over by somebody in the future, that all that beautiful work in setting the framework and structure for good doesn't go down the drain straight away. So seeing a lot of founders and a lot of startups that are saying from the outset, we want our business to be a B Corp. We believe in what this movement is doing and what the power of this movement can do. We want to be part of that.
Great, excellent. And what would be some of the benefits for people that might not have even explored B Corp as yet? What do you see as the main benefits for businesses, for business leaders, for employees, and I guess the wider stakeholders of a business?
I'm seeing that B Corps attract talent. There's certainly, particularly in the millennial space, there's a growing movement. In fact, a huge movement of people that want to work for companies with purpose. They want to see, and they're expecting that their employers will be able to demonstrate best practices. So as B Corps, you are automatically demonstrating that you do have impactful policies, procedures and practices in your business. And that's almost a no-brainer for a millennial that's looking for an employer of choice. Some of the other benefits are that you become part of a community of businesses that are aligned. And doing business with other B Corps means that you automatically know that their profits are being used in a similar way to yours. There's a growing movement of people that are also buying and choosing to purchase from B Corps or do business with B Corps rather than non-B Corps. And, that's an incredible thing, that movement, a lot like the X Factor Collective, where X Factor Collective supports social change makers to increase their impact. In the same way, B Corps support each other to increase their collective impact.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Well, we're excited to be starting our B Corp journey next year. We're only 4 months old, but hopefully we can get started on that journey next year. And how lucky are we to have someone in the collective that we can actually engage to help, the X Factor headquarters go through that process. So delightful to have you here in the community for many, many reasons, Leanne. Let's jump into question 4 now, into the next question. For companies that are considering becoming a B Corp, what are the steps involved and where should they start?
Okay, I might just get you to flick to slide number 1 if you can, Julia. Thank you. Okay, so I have borrowed this from the B Corp website, but I think it's a fantastic visual and a really easy way to view what your B Corp journey will look like. So I'll just step you through a couple of those parts very quickly, the ones that I think are really key. And knowing your business case is really crucial to this. If you can't talk about why you want to become a B Corp, you don't understand what the benefits will be for you, it's very hard to get your employees on board, your leadership team on board, and really engage your organisation in that journey. So knowing your business case for it, your reason for being, your reason for doing is a very important first step on that. But equally important is engaging your leadership and your board. If you don't have those people actively talking about it, actively advocating for why it's important to the business, then it loses a bit of its impetus. So strongly suggest that if you don't already have a really strong and engaged leadership group, that should be one of the first steps and one of the really key parts to embarking on the journey. In that second line down there, measure your impact, getting your baseline. I'll just focus on that for a minute. There's an online tool which Julia will share the link to called the B Impact Assessment. It's a free online platform, online assessment that allows you to go in at any stage and answer some questions to get your own baseline. So from that point, you can see, are there areas that you know that you're doing really well in, that you know you've got strong practices in, but are there other areas where you had completely missed or that needed a much greater focus? So getting that baseline through the free online assessment is a really quick and easy way that you can do that. And it gives you the advantage of knowing how you compare to other organisations, and to highlight the key gaps that you might have, and to help you make that decision about whether B Corp certification is achievable for you, and in what timeline it might take to go through that process. Completing the assessment does take time. It's an investment in your business, it's an investment in your future, and it's an investment in getting the fundamentals right for your employees, your environment, for the governance of your organisation, and for the community. So it's a great step to go through. Once you've met those requirements, and it's a point-based certification. So once you've met the points certification, you can then submit your final assessment, and the B Lab team will analyse your results and look at your documentation and determine whether you are now ready to be certified. I'll talk a little bit about that a bit more, but the last part of the map that you can see is understanding your roadmap. What the assessment does is give you a roadmap for areas that you can make continuous improvement. And without that, it's hard to know where to focus. There's so much good and so much potential that can be unlocked through understanding your business, but without a roadmap, it makes it takes just that bit longer to get there.
Excellent, fantastic. And then there is the link there that we can share with everybody as well. Thanks for that, Leanne. The Start the B Impact Assessment. If you haven't seen that link as yet, we'll send that in the follow-up email for you after the session as well. That's great. Excellent. Handy to have that as a visual, isn't it? Just to see those steps and the methodical thinking behind it and the structure behind it. Just helpful, even just if you're not quite ready yet, just to know that what that's going to look like. Yeah. I don't think we've actually got this as a question, but just looking at that there, Leanne, what is the general sort of average time that you see that it takes for people to go through that journey and be certified?
That's a big depends answer, Julia.
I'm sure it is, yeah. What do you see? What's the sort of lower end and higher end on that range?
The initial assessment can take as little as 4 hours to determine your starting point or get your baseline. The time challenge really comes in your roadmap and the amount of change that you may need to make, or the things that you might need to put in place before you're ready to be certified. And that largely depends on the number of employees that you have. As your team grows, as your number of employees in the business grows, the expectation of what you do as a larger organisation for the community, for your workers, around your governance also grows. So it very much depends on what stage you're at and what you've already got in place.
Okay.
There are some large organisations that don't have a lot of structure. They may have amazing practices, but don't have a lot of structure or measurement. That it might take quite a long time. There could be some very small organisations that have nothing, but because of their size and their agility, they can put it into place very quickly. So it depends on how many people you have working on it and how much time you dedicate to making it.
Yeah. So for a smaller organisation, I know that we have a large audience of small organisations and enterprises. If they put a focus on this and really kind of got into it and had the right support, what sort of time frame would you sort of see for those sorts of smaller organisations? Like roughly, is it sort of, a couple of months? Is it 6 months, 12 months? What do you sort of...
To give you an example, and I'm sure they won't mind me sharing this, I worked with Intrepid Group on their B Corp certification journey, and they were certified in August this year. That process took over 2 years.
Yeah.
Almost 3 years. And there's a number of reasons why certification may take that long. There was a global spread of the operations around 23 different countries. There's the complexity of putting a policy in place and being able to roll out that policy and be able to demonstrate that an organisation actively is communicating and living that. There's complexity around making structural governance changes that might be required. So it could take as little as 2 or 3 months for a very small organisation that can mobilise quickly. For a larger, complex organisation, everything that you scale takes longer, and with the scaling takes the time. So I wish I could be a little bit more definitive on the timeline with that for you, Julia, but larger organisations, if they've got great stuff in place, could potentially do it within a year, but there's a lot of ifs, buts and maybes along the way.
Yeah, sure. No, I think that's really helpful. Yeah.
A bit more.
Yeah, no, I think that's really helpful for people that might, that this might be completely new and this might be the first time that they're actually learning about B Corp. They might have been shared these videos just to kind of get that in their head, isn't it, really? That it's, maybe 2 to 3 months if you're super organised, and maybe on the smaller side right through to 1 or 2 years, because it is an undertaking, and it's there's a number of changes, and we're going to jump into those changes in just a moment. I'm going to give Leanne a chance just to have a glass of water and catch her breath. And I'm just going to share quickly with you a little information about what's going to be happening with these beautiful videos that we are recording and editing here after the session today. So we have, I think we're up to now 155 questions that we've asked our beautiful specialist members over the last 18 weeks. And that has helped to create pretty much what we think is the first social impact video library, definitely in Australia. We haven't been able to find one anywhere else overseas as yet, and that's just a free resource. It's part of our mission. Our social mission is to make life easier for social change makers, and so this is just a really great resource that you can tap into at any point in time, that you can share with your colleagues and friends, and in the sector. Please spread the word. I'm just going to show you there a quick look at that. This is the exchange here. You can go through and see that all the Ask X Factor live sessions, I'll just point these out to you. All the Ask X Factor live full sessions are all here, that you can go back and watch a full session again if you'd like to, or go back and see. If this is your first session, go back and actually see what else did we cover over the last 18 weeks. And then you start to go into some big theme areas. So we've got fundraising and partnerships. There's a really great library of there, about 30, 40 little videos at the moment. Boards and governance. We've got data tech, IT and analytics. And then we move across into wellbeing, mindset and self-care. We've got philanthropy, private and business giving. These will all be growing into next year as well. Communications and marketing. We've got a beautiful community of changemaker coaches and mentors in the X Factor Collective. And so there's videos here that are specifically from our changemaker coaches. And so you can go through them and have a look. The videos all range from about 2 minutes. Some of the longer ones are about 10 minutes long. So please jump in. You can click over here and subscribe, and you'll be notified as new videos are uploaded as well. So that's just to let you know a little beautiful resource that we have been able to create here at the Collective this year, and we're excited about growing that into next year. So, and we can only do it with your help. We can only do it if you let us know what are the burning things in your organisation, in your enterprise, in your business, wherever you're coming from, that we can help you with, that we can actually put together these forums here on a live broadcast each week, and then we can actually package them up as videos that you can play back and watch and share with people to really get the impact that you want in your organisation. So that one is there for you whenever you need it. Now let's get back into it. You are here on Ask X Factor Live, and we're here today with People and Culture Specialist and Capability Builder, Leanne Hart. I love the title that Leanne has for herself, a Capability Builder. It's beautiful. If you've got any questions, we're here for another 15 minutes, so please feel free to drop your questions in the chat box or Q&A box, and we can jump onto those before we wrap up today. So let's jump into the next question here, Leanne, and we're back into talking about the B Corp journey. What are some of the most common changes a company needs to make to be able to certify?
Um, I would say it is around formalising what they do. A really good example of that, formalising and communicating what you do. And coming up with a bit of a roadmap will be part of that process. But an example of that I've seen is a B Corp that has gone from being a founder only to growing to be a small team. And with that comes the need to have different policies and practices in place and to be able to demonstrate that as part of the audit process. So that's one area that I have seen companies fall down, is when you go through the final stage and your documents are audited, you need to be able to demonstrate how you're doing it, where the information can be found, how to access information if you're an employee, or do you know what the environmental practices are of your organisation? Do you know where to find financial information if you need it? So having information that's transparent, available and documented is a really key part. And that stuff takes time. It's the stuff that takes time. And that, I think, is one of the biggest challenges, and one of the biggest changes as part of that practice is it almost forces you to develop that discipline. But once you've got it, it's amazing, because you then go back and you refer to it. Or if somebody says to you, ask you to demonstrate what your environmental policy is, say, hey, we're an organisation that does this. We dedicate 100 hours a year to volunteering. We've got people in place that specialise in doing this. You're able to articulate it, and it helps you create a better outward communication message about your organisation and what it does. So it's a change and it's a challenge, but there's also a massive benefit in putting that in place to be able to help the way that you communicate about your business externally.
Fantastic. Excellent. That's great. And we'll jump across into and explore that a little bit deeper in terms of some of the challenges that companies experience. It's always so valuable to hear firsthand from someone who's been through the same journey as you, or the journey that you're about to embark on. So can you share with us what you have seen firsthand as some of the biggest challenges for companies on a B Corp journey?
It's interesting. I had the privilege of meeting Bart Houlihan, who was one of the founders of B Corp a couple of years ago. And we were talking about potentially how long the process could take for large organisations. And he said, it's not an end point, it's a journey. And even when you get to certification, that's not the end for you. You should be looking at it as a process of continuous improvement. And for organisations that are doing it for the right thing, and social impact and social change makers, we know that there's no start and finish point for when you start doing good and stop doing good. It is that ongoing journey. And I think it's being conscious of the fact that once you get certified, that's not the end. The best part of being a B Corp is knowing that you can continually keep working on things and continually do better, and having the desire to want to do better. But the challenge comes with having the time and the resources and often the money to be able to do that. And as we were talking to before, if there's a cost of doing something different in a business that will help you achieve certification, that's where your leadership become important. That's where your board approval may come in. So the changes that you might need to make to put best practices into place may also have cost implications or time implications, not something that you can switch a button and it's done overnight. So I think one of the challenges is understanding that it's not a tick and flick exercise. If you want to go on the journey of becoming a B Corp, you should be in it for the long haul and in it for the right reasons, and wanting to embark and engage and take your employees and your community and your volunteers and your board and your stakeholders and your customers on that journey with you. So I didn't really answer the question properly, but some of the other bigger challenges that I've found are capturing and recording your information. I often see organisations that have got great practices in place, but they don't have it written down anywhere, or they don't share that. So as a policy is only ever as good as the way people interpret it. And if they don't know that it exists, or they don't see it demonstrated, or they don't see it in practice, then it's not really worth the paper or now it's not worth the laptop space that it's written on. So I would encourage organisations to think about how are you really demonstrating that? Not how you think you're demonstrating it, but if you've got a litmus test, ask your employees. Go and ask them, how do you think we are doing this as a business? And if they look at you blankly, probably means you're not communicating it very well. So get your employees engaged early in that challenge, and they'll help you identify what the challenges are really quickly.
That's great. Excellent. Good to know what some of those challenges are, as people are embarking on this, things to be aware of, knowing what other people have been through. And I'm sure being a part of that B Corp community as well, you're just able to mingle and connect with other business owners and share that journey in a really authentic and meaningful way as well. So that's great. Fantastic. Well, we've got 2 more questions left here this morning. We're going to delve into the assessment areas next, and then we've got a final beautiful set of tips around engagement strategies with your team. But before we do that, let me just show you a little bit about how to connect with specialist members of the X Factor Collective if you're new to our community. I'm just going to show you here Leanne's profile on the website. So all of our members go through a selection and vetting process. They all have a minimum number of years of experience in what they're great at. And they also go through a reference checking with 7 referees that we conduct. So it's a really pre-vetted community. You know that by connecting with these people, that they've got the hearts and the smarts to help you achieve what you need to be doing. So you can have a look at Leanne's profile there, and all of our other members have profiles on the website as well. And also just to let you know that we have some pretty cool names at the X Factor Collective. We have one area of the community is called the Cafe, and this will look much better next year when we move on to our new platform. But our Cafe area is where you can go and see a whole menu really of great coaching packages and different ways that you can connect in with our members. And so you can see here, I'm just going to show you, and we'll get this as a follow-up link as well, the B Corp certification, extra support. You might want some tailored coaching sessions, so you can click through here and link up with Leanne and find out a bit more about some extra support and coaching sessions. And then if you flick through down here on the cafe a little bit further, and this will be much easier to navigate next year, but this is just what it looks like in startup mode, is some people and culture coaching as well. So if you have a look here, you can see 60-minute coaching session with Leanne Hart, and get all of your questions answered. If you've got challenges at the moment, Leanne is a perfect person to just spend 60 minutes with, or maybe more, and come out and just feel really resolved in your heart that you can move on with those challenges as a leader. So just click on there, tell me more, and you'll be linked straight up to Leanne to get that support that you need. And one other thing before we go back to the questions is the other funky little part of our X Factor Collective is called the concierge. And as we build out as a community, we want to be able to provide a central coordination help desk that's human powered and that is here for you to answer your questions that you need and help point you in the right direction. So we know our members really, really well. And you can just pick up the phone and call concierge. And I'm just going to show you that page there now on our website. You can call concierge at any time. You can email us. You can go to this page and just book a time here to chat to someone in the concierge team. And we can actually just listen to what it is that you need or what you're experiencing, or you might have a project that you need to get off the ground. And we can give you some ideas on some members that will be able to help you do that and connect you up with those people. So there's me. The concierge team is led by me, and it's another new part of our sector. We don't have anything like this in our sector yet, where you can just come and get really independent advice from experienced people that know, can troubleshoot with you and work out some, best and most cost-effective ways to achieve what it is that you might need to outsource and get support on. So that's just a couple of things about the collective and how that can help you into the next, into 2019 and beyond. So let's jump back in with Leanne here now, and we're going to have a look here now at question 7, and I think we've got some graphics here with this one as well, don't we, Leanne? And we can delve further now, Leanne, into some of the assessment areas with B Corp. Can you please share some of the best practices for the worker and community assessment areas with the certification process?
Yeah, sure. So, Julie, if you could bring up the workers one, I will talk to that one first because it's sort of links to one of the earlier questions about challenges that social enterprises have. And the very first question there. So this is a sample of, if you're on the online platform doing your B Impact assessment, this is a sample of the type of questions that will come up that you need to be able to respond to. So the first one there that talks to, do you have a written employee handbook that workers can access? It doesn't look very difficult, just being able to tick a lot of boxes there, but sometimes the challenge is in putting all of that together. And you'll see it includes things like having policies around, or written documentation on what happens around pay and performance issues. What happens if you've got a grievance or some challenges within the business that require intervention? Have you got a statement around the hours of work and your expectations? And some of these are not as straightforward as they sound, because statement on work hours, we're now working with a globally mobile workforce. We're working with people that have flexibility and that are working across different time zones. You have different caring arrangements, which might mean that people are working very late at night or very early in the morning. So something as simple as a statement on work hours is not as easy as it used to be. And so to put together something like this, a written handbook or an employee handbook that documents all of your practices as a pending B Corp or as an organisation that wants to do good, it does require a little bit of work. As I mentioned before, it's not a tick and flick exercise. It's sitting back and looking at your organisation and say, how are we going to approach this? What is the best practice that we will set up now that will equip our business for today, but also equip it for the future? What work hours and what are our expectations of what our team might need to do when we're a team of 30 people, when we're spread across multiple locations, when we're based out in regional areas and we don't get to see each other very often? How does that impact our work areas and our place of work? So that's just one example, but I hope it demonstrates the fact that even some of the policies and practices are not as straightforward as they sound. And it's a great opportunity for pending B Corps to think about that and to make sure that they've got things in place that will benefit the people in their team and benefit the business. If we just flick across to the other side of that slide, sorry, Julia, just back up to the workers one. The viewers to flick their eyes across to the right-hand side of the slide around percentage of company that's owned by non-executives. So some of the best practices in the B Corp space involve moving to a point where your workers have some ownership of the business, so that it's not just all owned by founders and workers. At some point in time, and Patagonia is a really good example of that. They've set up some cooperative systems where their employees can take on ownership of the business. Harder to do when you're a very, very small business, but again, something to start thinking about as you embark on that journey. How might you set it up so that it becomes more of a cooperative organisation down the track, or move to a complete not-for-profit model? It's all things that provoke you as you go through the assessment to think about the future business, not just your current business. Thanks, Julia. We can.
Excellent. And did you want me to go to this next slide, the community page here as well?
Yes, please. Perfect.
Great.
So another area there's four key areas of assessment that aspiring B Corps will go through. So it's workers, governance, community, environment, and also they're all operational areas, and also the overall impact business model that your organisation has. So one of the focus areas is community, and just a couple of the questions, again, that might come up that demonstrate the ways that you can show best practice. I've got up on the screen there. So volunteer service per capita. What's the percentage of per capita volunteer community service or pro bono time donated in the reporting period? So you'll see that that's a scale. It's a bit of a sliding scale, and points are achieved based on the higher levels that you have on these scales. So if you were an organisation where your employees were donating, where you were donating more than 5% of your time in any of those areas, volunteering, community service or pro bono, that would give you higher points than if you weren't doing any. So again, doesn't seem that difficult, but the challenge with this one is in being able to document it. So if you're starting on the journey, start thinking about this stuff early. How are you capturing that time at the moment? Are you recording when somebody does some volunteering? How are you equating the pro bono time that you're providing? Are you capturing that? Because part of the validation and audit process will be an expectation that you're able to show that. So start thinking about that one early. The other one that I love is this supplier diversity policy. And B Corp has a lot of focus on gender equality, diversity and inclusion as part of their community and worker practices. So I love that they do focus on having policies that give preferences to suppliers from underrepresented populations, including women. And B Corps and aspiring B Corps giving preference to those organisations that can support the movement to greater gender equality. But again, saying yes or no to this is only as good as how you're able to demonstrate that. So firstly ask yourself, do you know how many suppliers you've got that are owned by women or underrepresented population? Chances are not. If you write out a list of all of your suppliers, you may not know very much about any of them. So it's an opportunity to get to know them a little bit more deeply as organisations, and make sure that you are aligning yourself to suppliers that have share similar values or are doing the right thing in terms of Modern Slavery Act, which is something that's just come in recently. Thanks, Julia.
Great, fantastic. Thanks, Leanne. And you can see, just if you're new to B Corp, can't you? You can just see straight away that being able to think about, just with women-owned and women-led businesses, it's such an easy way for us within our businesses to be, we use this line of businesses being a force for good, but just being able to say that, as a business owner, I actually consciously and intentionally know my suppliers and the impact that I can create by how I engage with my suppliers. And that's something that, I think from my perspective, it's just so unique about the B Corp certification, that it gets people into that state of awareness and consciousness and conscious decisions around what they do and don't do with their business. So thank you for sharing those and going into those a bit deeper with us today. That is so incredibly helpful. Thank you. And we are jumping into our final question now. I'm just going to check. Everyone's been very quiet today. I think everyone's probably no questions from anyone here today. No. So we're just going to finish up with our question here with Leanne, and this is a really great one and something that you have seen, no doubt, with 16 years of experience in human resources around building teams and building great cultures. So and building teams and cultures is sometimes a little bit overlooked as well when we're really busy and we're doing the work and trying to create the impact that we want in the communities that we love and care about. So as a final tip, and to finish on a positive note, what are some of the best low-cost team engagement strategies that you have seen?
I'll give you a few different examples. Some of them are very tactical things that you can do, and other things are broader views of how to keep an engaged team. And like I mentioned earlier, an engaged team is the sum of all of the parts. It's not just one thing that you do that makes a big difference. One really simple thing that I love, that I used to see an amazing manager that I really respected do, he created something called the Jar of Awesome. And it may not have been his idea, I don't know, but it was incredibly powerful. And the Jar of Awesome was an opportunity that once a week, usually on a Friday afternoon, the team, it was about 15, 20 people in the team, all had an opportunity to write a little something on a note, put it in the jar, and it was something about somebody else in the team that they'd observed. So it was providing some really positive feedback to them about something that they'd done or said, or observed, or the way that they contributed. And every Friday they would ring a bell, they would take turns at pulling something out of the Jar of Awesome, read out who it was for, and everyone would get to share in what made that person awesome that week. Really simple, cost absolutely nothing, half an hour of the team's time, but resulted in a lot of laughter, a lot of engagement, and a lot of that mutual respect and mutual feedback to each other, which was a great strategy or a great tactic. From personal experience, I find that the most engaged teams are those that have an opportunity to innovate, the ones that are given, that are empowered to have autonomy in their job. They're not micromanaged, they're supported and developed by leaders or by managers that coach them. They invest in them personally, they invest in them professionally, and that's not in dollars, that's investing in them in time. And teams that have got a passion for the impact that they're creating. But to have that passion, they're also on board through the whole journey. They're on board because they understand the values and the visions and the goals of the business. They feel supported along the way. They celebrate successes, and they build a team identity. They hold each other mutually accountable. And engaged teams are not necessarily teams that are always harmonious. An engaged team could be a team that loves a robust discussion, and that robust discussion ends up with a really different solution to a problem. So engagement is not so much, it's not always what you do, sometimes it's just how you do it. It's not always the fun stuff, it's all of the stuff that happens together along with the fun stuff that keeps a team engaged from the point that they join through the point that they leave.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you, Leanne. That's excellent. We did have one sneaky last question just come through, and this is a question from Chris, if we can just do this one before we wrap up, if that's okay. And Chris says, hi to you, Chris. I am starting a new business with one goal being B Corp certification. And Chris's question is two parts. One, is there an advantage to setting up with certain type of legal structure? For example, is it better to start as a company rather than as a sole trader? Can you answer that one for us, please, Leanne?
Sure. I don't think there's an advantage either way in terms of B Corp, but the advantage is if you're intending to grow or grow quickly, I believe the company structure is a better way to go. And that's because some of the governance that you'll put in place over time will be easier with a company structure than as a sole trader. If your intention is not to be growing in terms of employees, just in services, it may work just as well to be a sole trader. So the answer really depends on what your end goal is, and what your bigger picture vision for the organisation is. And whatever it is, I hope it's going to be hugely successful for you. And congratulations for taking the plunge and starting that.
Excellent. Thank you. Chris, does that help? Please feel free just to pop a little note there in the chat box and see if that helps. And I just want to start to wrap up and say thank you very much, Leanne, today for preparing and sharing your wisdom and experience with everyone here today. And thank you to everyone for coming along today. If you're new to Ask X Factor and you enjoyed the experience today, please feel free to share the news of the X Factor Collective and Ask X Factor Live being a part of the social impact sector. We are on Facebook, we are on LinkedIn. We'll probably add a few other social media things like Instagram next year, and we'll follow up with you with an email, so you've got some follow-up material from today, and also our contact details if you ever need us to help you advance your social mission. So thank you everyone for being here today. Thank you, Leanne. A very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone. And thanks to everyone for being part of our 18-week pilot. Have a most beautiful day. Bye, Leanne.
Bye-bye.